You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN E-Mini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things E-Mini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro. Joining us today, Mr. Michael Borg. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Tuesday, 7th day of April, 2026. Thanks for joining us. Whoever you are, wherever you are, we're just glad to have you right here, right now. We do 2 live broadcasts every trading day. The first broadcast is our live training room. So to get in there, you got to be a member or taking the 1-week free trial. This broadcast, on the other hand, is open to the public. Everybody, everywhere on planet Earth with an internet-connected device. There's 2 different ways to join this afternoon broadcast live. Your best way, you only have to do it once. Go to mytradingiq.com. Scroll down to where it says Noon Broadcast. Click the link, fill out the 30-second registration form, and you're done. What will happen going forward is every trading day you'll get an email about an hour before the broadcast starts. In the email, there will be a link. So at 12 noon Eastern, all you do is click the link in the email, and it automatically logs you into our platform. The benefit of doing it that way is you have immediate access to the question box, so you can ask questions and participate in the discussion. Of course, there will be days you're out of the office, away from your desktop, but you still want to join live. And some days you'll be busy, so you can't join live, but you want to get caught up later. You can do both of those via our YouTube channel, which is easy to remember. youtube.com/CFRN. That's the Christian Financial Radio Network since 2005. Not only do we broadcast live every trading day on our YouTube channel, as we're doing right now, simulcasting, we also archive each and every daily broadcast. Currently, there's over 3,000 daily episodes archived for your educational and viewing pleasure. And if you're new to our neck of the woods, it's a great way to get to know who we really are. Thanks to the power of YouTube, you can scroll back 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years, a lot more. Now, obviously, you're not going to watch them all, nor do you need to. But it's a nice resource to have at your fingertips because it allows you to see how we've evolved over all these years, day by day by day. youtube.com/CFRN. On the left side of the screen, you'll see our schedule for each afternoon broadcast. Michael joins us at the top of the hour, 1 p.m. Eastern, for a recap of the live training room, and then about 15 minutes of live trading. We're going to start where we always do with our daily devotional. But I do want to give you a forewarning. I'm going to have to take about a 10-minute break during this broadcast. So I'll put a note up on the screen, be right back, and I'll make it as fast as I possibly can. Okay? Now, it could be things work out that I don't have to do what I got to do till Michael comes on, but, well, we'll see. So let's get into the devotional. The topic we've been on now almost a month. Where are you, God? Our scripture today is Isaiah 43:16 through 19 from the NIV translation. This is what the Lord says. He who made a way through the sea, a path through the mighty waters, who drew out the chariots and horses, the army and reinforcements together, and they lay there, never to rise again, extinguished, snuffed out like a wick. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. Again, that's Isaiah 43, verses 16 through 19. In some corners of the world, owning a Bible is a punishable offense. In others, it isn't illegal, but obtaining one can be nearly impossible. In remote villages across Asia, believers face isolation, poverty, and a lack of access to God's Word in their own language. Technology has become an unlikely ally. Thousands of SD cards containing the complete Bible in multiple languages, both written and audio formats, are quietly making their way into the hands of believers who have been spiritually starving. We've struggled to be able to find the Bible in my country, shares a believer from an Asian province. For him and countless others, these tiny SD cards have become treasured sources of daily encouragement, allowing them to study Scripture, share the gospel, and strengthen their faith in secret and safety. Brother T, who leads one of the largest underground house church movements in the region, explains, these SD cards have become a lifeline to us. In areas with no internet or church buildings, where villages are connected only by rough roads, regular pastoral visits are nearly impossible. The cards can be easily copied to multiple phones, spreading God's Word from device to device. The technology is bridging generational gaps in unexpected ways. One young believer shares, I can now read the Bible to my blind 80-year-old grandmother. She has since accepted Jesus and says her life will never be the same. When he leaves to study in another city, she listens to the audio Bible daily. Now, when I return, she encourages me and shares stories of other women who have accepted Jesus. For many believers, the SD card represents more than just a digital tool. It's a tangible reminder that they are not forgotten. In villages where ministry is difficult, these cards provide teaching, encouragement, and spiritual nourishment in accessible formats. God's Word is going forth, even in the most hidden villages. Even in the most impossible situations, God is making a way. What seems like simple technology becomes a powerful ministry tool, proving that God can use any means to reach hungry hearts. Where are the hidden villages in your world? Places where people are spiritually isolated. The same creativity that puts Bibles on SD cards continues finding new ways to reach every corner of the earth. You know, they asked Jesus when he was coming back, and he said, no man knows but the Father. He goes, I don't even know. But he did say he wouldn't come back until the gospel had been preached to every nation, tongue, and tribe. So more than the war of Iran in Iran and all that's happening on the global stage, I know they've been saying it for a long time, since you were born, but I really do believe these are the last days. Now, if you look at the last days through the lens of eternity, which is a very long time, well, the last days could last a while, right? Okay, let's pray. Heavenly Father, you are the one who makes a way where there seems to be no way. Help us to not dwell on the past, but to trust the new thing you are doing in our lives. Lead us through every wilderness and make streams in the dry places of our hearts. It's in Jesus' name we believe and pray. And everybody said, amen. Amen, and happy Tuesday. All right, let me give you the numbers from around the world, and then we'll get to the news. And as you know, there's big news out there, and the markets are reflecting it. We'll start in the U.S. with the cash markets, or the indices as they're called. The Dow's down 267 points. NASDAQ's down 184. S&P 500 is down 36. The Russell 2000 down 15. This is definitely a turnaround Tuesday so far. In the commodity basket, crude oil is up $2.24, trading 114.65 last. That's a gain of almost 2%. Gold's down $1.80, trading 46.8290 last. Silver down $1.29, trading 71.55 last. That's a drop of over 1 3/4%. In the Asian markets at the close, Nikkei posted a gain of 15 points. Shanghai rose 10. Hang Seng fell 177. And in the European markets at the close, FTSE down 87, almost 1%. The DAX down 230, basically 1%. And the CAC down 53. So we had a mixed day in Asia. It was a red day for the UK. And so far, it's a big red Radio Tuesday right here in the US of A. So let's get to the news. The Artemis 2 astronauts flew around the far side of the moon yesterday. No one's ever been there except Pink Floyd. Hopefully you get that joke. Setting a new record for the farthest humans have traveled from Earth. The 4-person cruise surpassed Apollo 13's 1970 record just before 2 p.m. Eastern and reached a peak distance of 252,760 miles around 7 p.m. The lighting in the Orion capsule was dimmed to encourage the astronauts' pupils to dilate, letting them perceive subtle details of the previously unseen region. Along the way, the crew named a crater after Commander Reed Wiseman's late wife, Carol. They came within roughly 4,070 miles of the lunar surface and, as expected, lost contact with Earth for about 40 minutes. The crew is now heading back to Earth with a planned splashdown off San Diego's coast Friday evening. And I thought this was really cool. Astronauts were awakened for this historic feat yesterday by Mandisa and Toby Mack's Good Morning. If you don't know who Toby Mack is, Maybe you don't listen to contemporary Christian music. He was once a part of the band DC Talk, which stood for Decent Christian Talk. But his solo career has just flourished. He is an incredibly gifted songwriter and performer. Toby Mac, one word. Check him out. And check out the song they woke up to. It's called Good Morning. And you sports freaks know that number 1 Michigan won the men's college basketball championship last night, beating number 2 UConn 69-63. It marks the Wolverines' second title and the first since 1989, and puts a bow on the program's best season in school history with a 37-3 record. Now, you're going to love this. If you grew up in the 60s or early 70s, researchers have discovered the so-called neural fingerprint of psychedelics' impact on the brain, finding the drugs temporarily increase connectivity between various brain regions. The study is believed to be the largest of its kind to date. Scientists reviewed more than 500 brain scans from 267 people who took 5 mind-altering drugs: psilocybin, LSD, mescaline, DMT, and ayahuasca. They discovered that a few minutes after taking the drugs, connectivity increased between the subject's transmodal networks, tied to thinking, and unimodal networks involved in visual and sensory perception. Also impacted were brain regions linked to habits and movement. The research may begin to explain why some people on psychedelics report hallucinations. I don't think that's, maybe you've never been there. It's not a hallucination. Among other experiences, more long-term research is needed. More than a dozen clinical trials of recent have found psychedelic drugs reduce symptoms of depression, anxiety, and addiction. Yeah. And investment tip of the day: lithium. One word. It's true. Turning to Wall Street. I'm going to go into more detail over the coming days on lithium. Okay, the U.S. military attacked targets across Iran's Karg Island as President Donald Trump reiterated his threat to unleash a massive new bombing campaign if Tehran doesn't strike a deal to end the war. U.S. forces early Tuesday struck sites similar to those that were hit in a round of attacks last month, but did not target energy infrastructure on the island, which is a key oil export hub. Trump followed those strikes by pressing Iran to make an agreement before his Tuesday 8 p.m. deadline, saying that a whole civilization will die tonight if that does not occur. A whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will, Trump posted on social media. He also held out the possibility of an agreement, saying new Iranian leaders with different, smarter, and less radicalized minds could reach a deal. We will find out tonight, one of the most important moments in the long and complex history of the world. Trump's comments, combined with the strikes, heightened the suspense about how the president will handle his self-imposed deadline. On Sunday, Trump vowed to destroy energy facilities and power plants in Iran if a deal wasn't reached by 8 p.m. Tuesday, New York time. Attacking civilian infrastructure is considered a war crime under the Geneva Conventions. However, if they're using that infrastructure for military purposes, which they are, it's no longer a civilian target. It's a military target. So take that, lefty. All right, you may be getting tired of hearing this, but I'm not going to give up on you. It's still possible to get in on the SpaceX IPO before it happens, but there are risks, trade-offs, and heavy fees. The upcoming SpaceX IPO could happen as early as June, with a potentially massive 30% retail allocation, with underwriters of major trading platforms providing retail investors with allocations post-IPO. See, that's the key. You want to be pre-IPO, not post. But for those who want it a little sooner, it's a little complicated. The most direct route to SpaceX before an IPO is through a private secondary market. These are transactions in which existing shareholders, employees, early investors, or former contractors sell their vested stock to new buyers. SpaceX does not issue new shares in these deals. Investors buy from existing shareholders. It's been quite a popular option in recent months. SpaceX is consistently one of the most actively traded names on our platform because there's nothing else like it in the private markets today, according to Greg Martin of Rainmaker Securities, which specializes in these secondary markets. You've got a highly defensible, massive operating scale business, a multitude of major total addressable market expansion opportunities with a continuously evolving story. I've already given you the symbols. Let me give them to you one more time. Okay, here's an ETF, ARKVX, XOVR, AGIX, or you can just buy shares in EchoStar, and that symbol is SATS, S-A-T-S, because they own a ton of SpaceX. This is not a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always check with a licensed investment professional before making any investment decision. United Health Group and other health insurer stocks surged today after the U.S. government said it would boost payments for Medicare Advantage plans next year. The U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services said it would increase payments to insurers for older Americans by an average of 2.48% in 2027, amounting to a $13 billion annual increase in payments. United Health stock jumped 8%, while Humana popped 5%, and Aetna's parent company, CVS Health, rose more than 4%. Right now, United Health is up over 10%, or $28 a share on the session. Nice. Can we get a dividend check in big tech? The dividend yield on the S&P 500 is nearing 50-year lows at a paltry 1.24%. Trivariate Research founder Adam Parker pointed out in a new note today, the only lower moment for dividend yield dates back to the tech bubble trough, when it stood at 1.09%. Over the last 100 years, the S&P 500 has averaged roughly a 10% annual return, with approximately 30% of that coming from dividends. That's, you need to be old money to buy those shares that just pay dividends. And I don't come from old money, so I have to take a little more aggressive approach. From Reuters, Americans rattled by surging energy prices tied to war in the Middle East are expecting higher near-term inflation and fresh challenges to their personal financial situations, according to the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. The bank said, as part of the March findings of its latest survey of consumer expectations, that inflation a year from now is seen at 3.4%, up from 3% last month. That jump left the frequently volatile reading where it was in December. The big increase in near-term inflation expectations came as the projected rise in gasoline prices, up 5.3 percentage points to 9.4%, was the highest since March of 2022. The comparison was notable as it came from a similar energy shock tied to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which, like the Middle East war, was started by President Trump and Israel, upending global energy markets. Oh, stop being a hater. Bottom line is Jerome on the 29th is going to hike rates, in my opinion, a quarter point. I hope it's only a quarter point. If he leaves it flat, I'll sing and dance. After weeks of war-driven pressure on fuel prices and supply chains, some businesses are starting to pass those higher costs along to consumers via new fees or through other less obvious changes. Companies tend to look for ways to get more out of what they already have first, like packing more into each shipment or combining orders into a single delivery. Over time, those higher costs still show up in subtle ways, like higher free shipping minimums, fewer discounts, smaller package sizes, or slower delivery. And as I mentioned, I'm going to have to take that break. I apologize. But as soon as I come back, we'll jump straight to the charts and the alerts. Okay? Okay. Thank you for your attention to this matter and your patience. He's back. Okay, let's get down to business. Logic 247. It's our 24/7 around-the-clock E-mini alert service. Not just E-minis, but also crude, gold, and silver. Over the last 401 weeks, we've issued over 21,900 individual handcrafted alerts. And what we've averaged on a weekly basis is 20% or less of the alerts being stopped out based simply on market structure, a simple process we teach all of our passport holders. Now, since the markets opened Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern, we've issued a total of 30 logic alerts. When Valerie did the recap last night at midnight, we were still waiting on the outcome of 14, and I'm betting some of those have triggered this morning. So she'll update the recap this afternoon, as she does each day. So at the time she did the recap last night, we had 16 actionable alerts, of which 1, or 6%, would have been stopped out, again based simply on market structure. Now, the purpose of the logic alerts is to help you learn how to read a chart. Every logic alert has an entry price, long or short, an initial target, then additional targets, then a final trade to target. The logic alerts can come out anytime around the clock, 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. Futures trade around the clock. We have traders around the globe. Our day session is their night session, and vice versa. If you never actually trade a logic alert, use them for the purpose intended, to learn how to read the chart. You'll thank me later. I promise. Okay. Now, 401 weeks is a long time. What did I say? 7.69 years? Something like that. But years before we had Logic 247, we had our original alert service, the concierge trade alerts. They're different in a lot of different ways. But for the purpose of this discussion, I'll just say this. They don't come out around the clock. They're typically posted 5 minutes ahead of the Globex open. So the Tuesday session that we're in began last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. But all of our traders had all of these targets 5 minutes before the market opened. S&P 500, the Dow, the Russell, crude oil, the NQ, gold, and silver. So when we go through the individual markets and look at the charts, you'll see these targets drawn out on the charts. Just remember, our traders had that information 5 minutes before the market opened at 6 p.m. Eastern. So we'll start with the chart we always start with, the S&P 500 daily chart, the bellwether. Now, price always reverts to the mean. In our case, the mean is green. It's green line. We call it the BBC. It just stands for bull bear cross. When price crosses above it, we're bullish. When price crosses below it, we're bearish. We're looking for higher prices, lower prices, higher prices, lower prices, higher prices, lower prices. It's pretty simple. Now, it doesn't matter what you trade or how you trade it, price still reverts to the mean. It's kind of like gravity, it just is. It's what price does in the markets. Notice the pullback to the BBC holds more often than it doesn't. But eventually it will trade through. This pullback held and this pullback held over 1, 2, 3, 4 days. See, every candle is physically touching the green line. That means it held. And then price moves in legs. Leg retracement. leg retracement, leg retracement, pull back held, pull back held, and then we got below the BBC and began a downtrend, which is why you're seeing reverse fibs. Normally you draw your fibs from the low to the high, but in a downtrend you draw from the high, and that's the all-time historic high, to the low. We've now retraced to the BBC, the daily BBC. Price always reverts to the mean, and the pullback holds more often than it doesn't. So we're right at that 38% reverse fib and the daily BBC. That's why I'm calling for potential resistance in that area, and that's what we've got. Notice we're sitting right on top of the black step line. When the black step line or blue and climbing gets directly below price, in this scenario they become potential support. We did trade through earlier, but we didn't take out the Sunday night low. See, this is the Monday candle, but remember, the Monday candle began Sunday night at 6 p.m. Eastern. Just like this candle, today's candle began last night at 6 p.m. Eastern. We did not take out yesterday's low as we came down. Buyers came in early. They've driven us back up, but now price is trapped. You got resistance right overhead at the daily BBC and the high of the session. And you got support right where we sit at the black step line, then the low of today, then the low of yesterday, and then blue and climbing, then the 24% reverse fib. Okay? Now, if by some chance the institutional traders who actually move price get bullish, then we get above the BBC, look for potential resistance right here, about 66.84. Then at the 50% reverse fib, 67.25. Then at 67.48. And then at the 62% reverse fib. Now to me it looks like the path of least resistance is to the downside. We have a very light news week as far as economic reports. Now, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, there's probably no bigger event. If Trump calls off the strike, these markets are going to rally like crazy. If he goes through the strike, well, we could drop a lot. Sadly, as oil has climbed, gold and silver have pulled back, and obviously the indices are down today. But we did stage a pretty good comeback from this low. What do we have there? We had, after the low, that was 1 day, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trading days. Now we tried yesterday and today to get above the BBC. But what we really need is we need a candle to both open and close above that green line. Then we officially go back into a bullish stance. So we'll see what happens. Okay, let's go to the 30-minute chart. That's where all the alerts are created. Now, I already gave you the numbers on the Logic 247, and I showed you the concierge trade alerts. These are them drawn out on the chart. The vertical line separates today, Tuesday. Here's Monday. Here's the Sunday night open. That's the low of Sunday night right there. And then yesterday we finished relatively strong, considering the gap lower open Sunday night. The horizontal lines are the weekly trading zones. We've published the zones for our members every Monday for over 16 years. When price rallies up to a zone, we expect resistance till proven otherwise. When price drops to a weekly zone, we expect support until proven otherwise. So you can see support kicked in here, sent us back up, but then we came right back down. Now, remember, we're on a 30-minute chart here. This candle has the potential to open and close above the BBC, but it's physically touching the BBC, and we've got a weekly zone right overhead. So last night, this is where we opened. We opened at 66.51 and ran up to 59 and a quarter. So that wick was a green candle, good for 8 points. Okay. Now, why would I buy the open? I'm going to tell you why. Because price opened above the BBC, above blue and climbing, and above the step line. So you would expect price to run right to that high from yesterday. We missed it by just a little bit. The target was at 61. We got to 59 and a quarter. All right. So when the market finds resistance, it's got to go look for support. And where did it find it? At the zone that was published yesterday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. Once the zones are published on Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, they're carved in stone for the entire week. They don't change in any way whatsoever. Now, when the market finds support, it's got to go look for resistance. Now, one of three things happens when price encounters a weekly zone. 70% of the time, it's consolidation. 20% of the time, rejection. 10% of the time, the slice. So, and notice red and falling turned to blue and climbing. Red and falling is bearish, blue and climbing is bullish. So we traded through the BBC, and we hit that long target, and we took it out by a little bit. What's the high? 66.6666 and a half. So we overshot the target by 5 points on that move. Now, resistance, of course, is going to send the market looking for support, which it found at the short target. That bounced us up to the zone overhead, which sent us back to the zone below, which sent us back to the zone overhead. Then we ran into red and falling, and that pushed us all the way down. 2 zones. Now we spiked this zone, but so far it's held as support. And it just so happens that right above that zone, you see where red turned to blue? Yep. Now the Sunday night low right here, as you can see, we haven't quite got there yet. In fact, it looks like buyers came in early and they are trying to push it higher. But you've got a high, a lower high, and at the moment a lower high. So breaking this high and this little, almost a double top there, that should give you room to run up to this spot right here, 66.49, where blue turned to red. If price gets up there, look for that to be good resistance, at least the first time up. Okay? Support at the zone, resistance at the zone. The only thing that's changed about the zones over the last 16 plus years is absolutely nothing. When I first started publishing the zones, people used to say, well, can I just trade zone to zone? You can do anything you want. And occasionally that question still comes up today when somebody new comes along. The Dow, as you can see, support at the zone, resistance at the zone, support at the zone. That was all yesterday. This was the opening candle last night. Now we opened at 47,001 and ran up 33 points. You only need 20 points to get your goal for the day. So this zone served as good resistance. Blue and climbing turned to red and falling. Down we go. Now right here, we sliced through the zone. What typically happens on a slice is when it runs out of steam, it'll retrace to the zone it sliced through and continue in the direction of the slice. This time that didn't happen. But as happens 70% of the time, we consolidated at the zone. Resistance at the BBC, support at the zone. Then we finally got through the BBC. Finally got back up to the zone that we hit early in the evening. But we failed to take out yesterday's high by just a little bit. And that just a little bit is a sign of weakness. Look what it led to. This huge drop right here. Took us right to the short target, to the tick, which is based off this low from yesterday. This is what I mean by market structure. Okay? Nobody knows what's going to happen next in the market. No guru, no algorithm, no indicator, no oscillator. It's just not possible. Okay? But you can know with a high degree of probability what the most likely thing is to happen once you learn to read the charts. So, support sent us looking for resistance. See how we consolidated at the zone? We did poke above it. But again, failing to take out yesterday's high. We closed just off the high of the day yesterday on the Dow. And then we hit the target, which bounced us up to the BBC in red and falling. That's resistance times 2. Back to the zone, back to the BBC, all the way down to this zone, to the tick. And then the bounce took us to the underside of the short target. When price trades through, in this case a short target, CTA short target, the retracement will often find resistance on the underside of that short target, and it did. Sent price way down here. But look at the pullback, pullback hill, pullback hill, pullback hill, pullback hill. Pullback holds more often than it doesn't. And it looks like we're just underneath that short target again right now, but with resistance overhead at the 30-minute BBC, and then the high of, not the high of the session, but the next zone overhead. High of the sessions up here. And look, there's a double top between that first 30-minute high and the 30-minute high put in at 5 a.m. Eastern this morning. London opens at 3. Huh. Looks like London's opening at 4 now. I always get confused when the time changes. I'll double check that. But I think the UK still does daylight savings time, so it should still be 3 o'clock, but that would be a very quiet open. All right, moving on. The Russell. Look at it yesterday. From zone to zone, pullback hill, zone to zone, back to the zone, back to the zone, back to the zone, back to the zone. You get the idea. So here's the open last night. We hit the short target and found support at the zone to the tick. Support sends us looking for resistance, and obviously the high of yesterday, that was the long target, and we missed it by just a little bit. The high was 2561.1 and the target was 62, so we missed it by 9 ticks. Resistance sends us back to support, support, resistance, support, resistance, pullback held, pullback held, pullback held. Then we eventually traded through, and we didn't quite make it to the long target again. But we're above the BBC. We got blue and climbing below. So of all the markets we've looked at, I would say that right now the Russell has the best chance at rallying at least up to 25.58. After that, I say after that, 25.61. Okay. All right. NQ. This was the open last night, and by 21:30 we had exceeded the short target. You notice we got a bullish cross here, but that kind of gets negated by this candle here. But that area still served as perfectly good support. A bullish cross is when the blue line gets above the green line and leads to an extended move. The first time price revisits that area, spot on support. Does that happen every time? No. More often than not, oh yeah. But see, this wick obfuscates that bullish cross. But that's still pretty much to the tick where buyers came in. Drove us up, drove us through the zone, but again failed to take out yesterday's high or hit the long target. So down we go all the way to the short target. And then we drop a little further, the pullback holds, and the pullback holds, and we find support at the zone. And look at the low here. It's just above that bullish cross. Buyers came in early. If we can get above this zone on the NQ, look for potential resistance at 24,308. And then 24,337. That's if the institutional buyers keep buying. Crude oil. Here's the open last night. Got a leg and a retracement. Pullback held. Then we traded through the long target. Found resistance here. Look left, way left. You'll see why. That sent us lower, but we didn't make it to the short target, which was based off this bullish cross. Buyers came in. We didn't quite make it to that zone. We've pulled back to the BBC, and now you see that the upper side of the long target is serving as good support, because that is an important price, important area. I know we spiked it a little bit here, but on this current candle, it's holding pretty good. Gold. Here's the open on gold last night, and we hit the short target by 2100. Consolidated there. Pulled up to the BBC resistance, which sent us back down to the short target. Support then sent us looking for resistance, which we, this on every market, we've just barely missed the long target. But plenty of room to get your goal for the day. This candle right here, it opened at, we'll call it 47.10, and ran $1,100. That one little 30-minute candle right there, it's worth $1,100 per contract traded. Resistance sends us back to support, back to resistance, back to support. Now notice this low ties into this low right here from yesterday. Support sends us to resistance at the zone. And on this pullback so far, The BBC looks like it wants to hold as support, and red and falling just turned to blue and climbing. So am I saying gold could pop right here? It could, but it's not a forecast. If it does pop, look for resistance. 46.96, and then 47.06, and then 47.13. And then you got this high, 47.21, and then the target at 25. Now, in order for price to come down, we got to get through the BBC, we got to get through the black step line, we got to get through blue and climbing, and we got to take out this low. So, and I think I mentioned we don't have hardly any news this week, high impact. However, we do have one this afternoon, the minutes of the last Fed meeting. Sometimes that brings volatility, other times it doesn't. The next FOMC is on the 28th and 29th of this month. And I pray it's Jerome's last. Silver. We opened right at the zone. We made a drop, but we didn't get to the short target. Now remember, it only takes 2 pennies in silver to get your goal for the day. And this drop from 73.27, come on, down to 71.67. A $1 move in silver is worth $5,000 per contract traded. So we found support at the zone and bounced right up into resistance at the BBC. Now, if somehow price can overcome the BBC, right here you got a bearish cross. So 72.58 should be good resistance first time up if we head in that direction. We'll see. So far, red and falling has not turned to blue and climbing. But if we continue to consolidate sideways, it will at some point. And that brings us all the way around the world back to the daily chart, where we still sit atop the black step line. Now, in the live training room this morning, we knew that was good, potentially good support. And we had a sell-off that took us almost to yesterday's low. But buyers have come in. As you can see, there's definitely buying going on. Here's the rub. Once the institutional traders hit pause on the buy side, then the funds and the institutional traders that specialize in short selling, they come out of the woodwork because they can just hammer the market down because there's nobody standing in the way. And the institutional buyers are just sitting there waiting for them to drive it low enough that they can't resist the discounted price. And that's how it works. Michael should be here, but he's not. But he will be. To become a member, here he is. All right, Michael's going to give us a recap of what happened in the live training room and do a little live trading as time permits. Then I'll come back and wrap things up with our good word for the day.
Sorry about that. I was sitting right here.
No problem.
My mother sent me a text, and 3 minutes later, I'm late.
Okay. All right, you look good.
All right, here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, the 7th day of April, 2026. Now, if you have not taken a free trial with us and you want to, go here to mytradingiq.com and just click on the purple button right here. There is no credit card required for this trial. Click on that purple button. It's going to bring you to this registration page where all that we ask for is your name, your email, and your phone number. Today is Tuesday, right? Yeah. Your name, your email, and your phone number. Down at the bottom, make sure you give us your TraderView login ID. Okay, hit the register button. Once you hit that, Then we'll know you took the trial, and we'll be able to get your indicators indicating on your desktop. All right. All right. We had kind of a slow day today. We didn't have that many trades. Did pretty well considering. But if you're going to read the spreadsheet, you have to read all the CFTC risk disclosures down at the bottom. Today, as I said, is the 7th day of April 2026. Made 26 ticks on the NQ, 41 ticks on the Russell, 23 ticks on the YM, and 43 ticks on the ES. That put us at 987.5 on the morning session. Today it took 6 minutes and 4 trades to get to the goal for the day. At that point, we're up $1,350. And we took a total of 28 trades with 3 stop outs today. So 89% of our trades today were break even or better. Okay, 59% today. Now, that puts us at $4,380 on the month over 4 business days, averaging $1,095 per contract per 2-hour business day. And on the year, $70,685 over 58 business days, averaging $1,218 per contract per 2-hour business day. Now, if you were to quit trading when you got the goal for the day, the goal being $100 per contract, and add 1 contract per month, so far this year, you would be up to your 4th contract. Just curious. I'll go look at something in a minute. You'd be up to your 4th contract, and if you quit trading when you got your goal for the day and did everything exactly like I did, including the same slippage and everything else, which is impossible, but you'd have only had to work 7.2 hours, and you'd be up $19,625, trading 4 contracts right now. So you would have averaged $2,725 per hour. Okay. Now, the thing that I was curious about, we have that number, and that number is just way too big. Why is that number so big? It's 4 times that. And why is that number so big? Michael R. You can help me out with this. I'm curious where we were last year at this time. So we had 2,400, 6,100, 8,400. Yeah, you see these numbers are so much bigger last year. I'm not exactly sure what the difference is in there. But last year, oops, let me do that. Last year we had 37, 53, 79. And this year we have 37, 53, 84. So we're pretty close to the same stuff as we did last year, I think. I don't know. I'll figure it out some other time. Anyway, here we are for today. I guess I have this twice. All right, well, let's go with this one. I want the one where I made all my marks on the charts this morning. I think it was this one. Yeah, it was this one. All right, let's go back over here for just a second. See if anybody has any questions. Michael R., I don't know if you're in here. Did you figure out that issue you were having? I was thinking you could just send a screenshot, the one you sent to me. Send it to ChatGPT and tell it exactly what you're doing. Say, I want, because it'll go through all the instructions and all those little things that you'll never actually figure out and read on your own. It'll go through it all in 15 seconds. It will look it all up on the internet for you. Just tell it exactly what you're doing and send it the screenshot and tell it what the problem is. Because there's some switch somewhere you don't have on or off or something like that. That's exactly what I was going to do. So, because it wasn't anything jumping out at me. That's for sure. All right, so here we are. I didn't go over this stuff. I did go over that stuff. The trades that we took. What time is it? 1:06. Okay, we got through this pretty quick. We only had 28 trades. This one is the Russell. So we didn't have any stop outs on the Russell today. Our first trade was a +5. Then our next trade was also a +5. And then the next trade was also a +5. Then we finally had a bigger trade. We had a 16 tick trade. That got us to 16, 21 tick trade. Got us to 36. And then another 5 tick trade got us to 41. So most of our trades on the Russell today were 5 tick trades. It does not have a trade right now. Okay. As a matter of fact, let's go all the way to the end on this and see. That does not have a trade. This does not have a trade. And this does not have a trade. Okay. So the YM, we didn't have a ton of trades on that today either. But let's go here. On the YM, our first trade on the, we only had a couple of trades. We had the first trade here for plus 10. And then second trade, we only had 2 trades. Second trade, I don't know exactly where it was, but we got 13 ticks on the second trade to put us at 23. That might have been the second trade, not the first trade. I don't know. Anyway, we only had a couple of trades on the YM today. I started out with the YM on the wrong time frame, but we really didn't have any trades right at the beginning that I missed anyway. Okay, and that was the YM. Now we will do the ES. Control back on that. All right, so on the ES, our first trade was a break even, as you can see. And then we were doing pretty well on the ES. We had a plus 6, then a plus 4, and then a plus 13. So we're up to 20. Oh, there's more stuff missing here. We had a plus 6, then a plus 4 that got us to 10, then a plus 13 that got us to 23, then a plus 4 that got us to 27. And then we stopped out. So there's a couple of things missing in there. We went from 27 down to 17. And from 17, we went to 29. And then from 29, we went to, we had a big trade and we went to 44. I don't think that should be yellow. That should be blue. We had a big trade and we went to 44. And then we stopped out again and went down to 34. And then from 34, we went to 39 and then went to 43 at the very end. Yeah, right there. Went to 43 right there. We ended up with a break even on that one. That was it. There was a huge move up here during the break. And we crunch it all the way up. It hasn't given it back. So it's trying to hold this huge move up right here. Now, you see this. We have a little bit of a trend line that we can draw from a couple of places here. But if we start way down here with the trend line, it would go something like this. Something like that. Okay. But if you start again right here, then it would go something like that. And then if you draw another one up here, it would go something like that. So this is what I'd be looking for to get up above. Break up above there today. We should have some pretty good action on the upside. All right. Anyway, that was the ES. We don't have any trades on the ES right now. Okay. Next, we'll do the NQ. All right. Next, we'll go to the NQ. Now, we didn't have any big trades on the NQ today, really. Nothing, none of the full target trades at all. We did actually get negative on the NQ at one point today. We started out with plus 7. Then we had a plus 1. Now the 7 and the 1 should have both been 10 ticks. And at that point, we should have been up 20, but we're up 8. Then the next one went from 8 to 16. We should have been up 30, but we were up 16. Then we went to 22. We should have been up 40. And then we went to 32, and that was correct. But we should have been up at 50 at that point. And then we stopped out. And we went to minus 4. Then went from minus 4 to 11. Then from 11 to 16, that should have been to 21. Then 16 to 26. So what I was describing to you and all that was all the slippage that I got today. All those plus 10s. I think out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 6 of those 8 trades Should have been plus 10. And I had the stop out. And let's see, we had 2 of the 6 trades were actually plus 10. So 4 of the trades, 4 out of 6 of the trades, that should give me plus 10, slipped negatively. Nothing slipped positive today. Anyway, listen to me complaining about being up so much. Let's go here and just be happy my glass is half. Today, if you want to take the free trial, go to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button, no credit card required. That's going to bring you here to the registration page. Just fill this out. Down at the bottom, put in your TradingView login ID, and we'll get you set up. With your indicators indicating on your chart as soon as you start the trial with us. Okay. All right. So right now we have 17 minutes left. We'll see if we have any trades coming up. This is not a trade here on the S because it didn't hit the mid band. It's above the mid band. Calculation be that times 4 divided by 10. Yes, you never can tell apart. That is for sure. This, what do I have it as? Oh, I don't have it divided by 10. That's the problem. I'm missing the divided by 10 part. Does that look better? This far into the month, that's about right. Should be that number divided by 10 times 4 is what it should be. That's what it should be. Divided by 10 times 4. I got those backwards in there. Oops, did I get a negative on that by accident? I did. It ends up being the same thing right now, but yes, it is the same. It won't be after time though. It's the same right now, but all right. Anyway, that is the right formula. Thank you. I was just looking at it and I was remembering this number here is all those times 10. So if we divide that by 10, then that would be 1 contract. Multiply that times 4 would be what you'd have with 4 contracts. That's the formula. So 2, 6, 8, and well, we're 4 days in. We're up to 2. And this month, I'm going to be out the 16th, 17th, and 20th, and maybe the 28th and 29th. So we will see. Now let's get back in here and see if we have any trades. The ES is almost going to trade. The NQ is almost going to trade. NQ is not actually off the mid-band, but it's really close. And those are the 2 trades. There's the ES that just figured in, and the NQ also did. Here's the ES. Here's the NQ. The ES just went to break even. I'm going to lock in 1 tick. The NQ just went to plus 10. Move that over. And the ES should get down to right here. We'll lock in 4, 8. Get rid of that. Did it just get me out? It didn't. We can cancel that. That's not the right one. 10, 12. Okay. So I'm out with 12 on the ES. That was right there. And 10 over here on the NQ. The NQ wasn't exactly true. Didn't hit the mid. Let's put it in over here. That is the goal for the day. Times 3.5, I think. 6, 4, 7. This is the NQ. I'll go and check and make sure we got 10 there. I'm not so sure we got 10. This. Okay, 76. Copy that down. Copy that down. All right, and that's where we stand. We're up $2,000 a contract right now, or I'm $2,000 or $200 a contract. I was gonna go check on the NQ and see if we just got 10 now. We got exactly 10. And the ES. $25.50. We actually got exactly 12 on the ES too. Okay, I'll show you them all. It's the ES and the NQ. Now, we did not end up with trades anywhere else at this point. I just thought of something. Right, nothing there, nothing there, nothing there, nothing. Yeah. And we have 10 minutes left. So hopefully we'll get something else here. I think the markets are just, it seems to me like everything's just kind of waiting right now. All right. Anybody got anything? Any questions? Any news about anything? Go up here. The SPY is up to that right now. We didn't get down to yesterday's low today on the ES. Quite. But we did get rejected right there. Interesting.
Hey, guess what?
What?
The U.S. government is facing a shortage of like 80 tons of lithium. and I had ChatGPT line out the best lithium companies or funds that you can invest in that give you, and it even wrote me a script for TradingView, which would show you the individual stocks, and it will give you a little flag on the pullback when to get in. So
Lithium. I thought you were going to tell me there's a place in Iran where they get the lithium.
There may be, but I think China pretty much has most of the lithium, but there are other places in the world. So the safest way is to invest in these funds, but it also, ChatGPT gave me individual stocks. So I'll be posting that, guys, later today, the stocks that are recommended in funds. And it's not a recommendation to buy or sell any security, but I will post the individual funds and stocks that give you exposure to lithium.
There was one a while back, I think, that was a lithium-based thing, wasn't it? It went up like 300% from the time that you mentioned it.
Yep.
Like a week later.
Yep.
2 weeks later.
And I've been telling everybody every day now for a couple of weeks how to get SpaceX pre-IPO. It's going to be the largest IPO in history. They now estimate it's going to be $2 trillion. But you can get shares now, before the IPO.
And how do you get those?
Well, you can go on the secondary market where employees of SpaceX who have been given shares, as like sign-on bonuses or as part of their pay package. There's a whole secondary market out there where company employees can sell their pre-IPO shares to anybody. It's not a very liquid market, so like once you buy them, there's no guarantee you'll be able to sell them before the IPO. Once the IPO happens, then you can sell them on the open market. So ChatGPT said that's the best way to do it, but also the riskiest way to do it. The safe way to do it is to invest in these various funds. So each person has to make their own decision, but I'm going to give you guys the information I was given, and then you can do with it what you will. So I'll publish that in Breeze later today. If you're a member, or I think the Breeze channel is open to the public. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, just for the link, email Valerie, support@cfrn.net, and just say, can I get the Breeze link, please?
Michael R. says, how much are the SpaceX shares going for?
On the secondary market, I don't know. I haven't actually gone to I've been giving them the price of the funds. Let me just type in secondary market for SpaceX pre-IPO. That's pre-IPO trading platform. Oh, I gotta sign up for that one. Let me just see if I can find one. You don't have to sign up to look at the price. SpaceX shares right now are going for $838 pre-IPO on the Hive platform. Let me see what it is on Equity Zen site. Come on.
How many shares does Musk have? I wonder. All right. Well, we were going to have a trade there, but it turned into nothing. We did have one trade right here a minute ago. I got 24 ticks on. Nothing there, nothing here. The YM is pretty close, but not quite. If we get an up close straight from where it is, it'll be too far away. The ES, midband's not flat. It's going to go down. Now it's going to go all the way down, all the way back up, and then go all the way out again. So in the next 2.5 minutes, we're probably not going to get a trade on the ES. YM is the closest right now.
Okay, to participate on the secondary markets, you got to be an accredited investor, which means net worth over 1 million, excluding your primary residence, or income over 200,000, or 300,000 if you're married. And shares are ranging across the different private platforms from $600 to $800 a share. I mean, that thing could hit 2,000 a share on opening day. And I guess in the interest of full disclosure, I should say it could also go to zero. I don't suspect that. $800 a share seems a little pricey pre-IPO, but
well,
alternatives. Retail investors can gain exposure through third-party funds like the ARK Venture Fund, XOVR, or the Private Shares Fund, PRIVX. So I just hate to see anybody miss what could be one of the biggest deals. And SpaceX just signed an agreement with NASA to do something big next year. So, I mean, those government contracts are always lucrative. Just ask somebody from Somalia.
Yeah. Yeah. Any Somalian in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Man, the policing of America. It's just not right. All right. Well, we have less than a minute left, guys. So far, we've had 3 trades, and all have been good. We didn't end up with the trade on the YM. One that we were looking for, anyway. We had 2 on the NQ. We had that one and this one here on the ES so far. So why don't I just say this? If you have not taken a free trial with us and you want to, go here to mytradingiq.com, click on the purple button. There's no credit card required. When you click on that, it's going to bring you to this page where all they ask is your name, your area, and your phone number, and then down here at the bottom it gives you TradingView login ID. All right, once you give us that login ID, we will know that you took the trial and get your stuff your indicators indicating on your desktop. Now, in this session, this is how we're going to end it. We had 3 trades with 0 stop outs, 17 minutes, $320 a contract, or $3,200 with 10 contracts on in these 17 minutes. So, pretty good period here today. The last couple of days, knock on wood, have been good. And we are now up to $100,000. Wow, look at that. An even number. We're averaging. Our gross monthly profit, that's not exactly right. With 10 contracts on, I don't even know what that number is all about. Anyway, over 76 days, we're averaging $131 per session, okay? In the 16.18 minutes that we average trading in here, we're averaging $131 per session per contract. So today we're up 3,200, yesterday 2,100, the day before that we were down 1,000, the day before that we're down 875. So most days are really good.
Way to
good
turn
enough
around.
to anyway. And with that,
in answer to your question, Jeff, June is when the IPO is scheduled for. Now, if you buy on the secondary market, some of those shares, be forewarned, may have a lockup period, which means you can't sell them on the open market for like 6 months. So some will be restricted, some will be unrestricted. Yeah, 6 months after the IPO, right? So, and a lot of them require $100,000 minimum investment, and just you guys do your own research. I've pointed you in the right direction. Now it's up to you to sniff out the truffles. Did you already say send it back out?
I think I said, yeah, we can send it back out to fabulous Phoenix, Arizona, in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Wait.
All right, I'm ready. Recap of the morning session.
Today, it took 6 minutes and 4 trades to get to $1,350.
Good job.
Thank you.
For those of you that weren't tuned in earlier, Logic 247 this week, week 401. That's 7.69 years.
Wow.
So far this week, now Valerie did the recap last night at midnight. I hope she's not sick because she normally does a morning recap. But this week, since the market opened Sunday night, we've issued 30 alerts. At the time of the recap, we're waiting on 14 and they were all shorts. So they probably got triggered this morning. 16 actionable alerts, 1 stop out, 6%. So it's a good week so far for all things considered. But I've covered all the markets in granular detail. We'll take one last look at the daily chart. If you missed any part of today's broadcast, 10 minutes after I sign off, go to youtube.com/CFRN and you can watch all of today's broadcast in its entirety, or you can fast forward to the part where Michael came on, or whatever it is that you're interested in. It's there for you. youtube.com/CFRN. And right here, we're sitting still. This has been how it looked since the beginning of the broadcast. We spiked that black step line, but now we're just sitting on top of it. So price is trapped between support at the black step line and resistance at the BBC. And then, of course, the high of the session. And then, of course, the high from March 25th. And then the high, and then the 50% reverse fib. And then the high of March 23rd. So, to become a member, email Valerie, support@cfrn.net. You can call her, 949-42-EMINI. You'll probably get voicemail, so leave a message. She will call you back. Just let her know you want to become a member. She'll email you all the information that you need. Once you become a passport holder, you'll get 2 hours of live training every trading day. Now, I don't know who's listening or who's going to listen to this in the future, but 9 out of 10 new traders fail because they don't have anyone to teach them how to trade. Imagine trying to become a brain surgeon without anyone to teach you, or a pilot, or even a carpenter. A lot of trial and error. This is where we kind of stand apart. We don't just sell you some indicators, a set of instructions, and wish you good luck. 2 hours of live training every trading day. Plus, our Telegram channels are monitored around the clock. On top of the 2 hours of live training, you get private one-on-one mentoring. All you got to do is ask. The strategy you learn, the indicators you use as a passport holder are fluid across all markets and all time frames. Stocks, futures, crypto, Forex, ETF. It doesn't matter. Price flows the same across all markets and all time frames, just as I've shown you today and show you every day, from support to resistance, back to support, back to resistance, over and over again and again. It's a never-ending cycle. And you probably say, well, then how do I know where this support and this resistance you speak of is going to show up? Because you get the Logic 247 alerts around the clock and the concierge trade alerts. The Logic alerts will, if you never trade a Logic alert, they will still teach you how to read the chart if you do the work. You got to draw some, and the work is bringing up the alert, bringing up the chart, drawing horizontal lines, and pretty soon the clouds part. You get the CTAs every evening, 5 minutes ahead of the Globex Open, most days. Every Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, you get the weekly trading zones. Every Thursday night, you're able to attend the members-only workshop at 8 p.m. Eastern. And you get the golden keys that open all the private channels in Telegram. And there's a bunch. It's everything a trader needs, all under one roof, one low price. Let's wrap it up with our good word for today. You can make a difference. What do Billy Graham, Campus Crusade for Christ founder Bill Bright, Young Life founder Jim Rayburn, and the Navigators founder Dawson Trotman have in common? The answer is a Sunday school teacher named Henrietta Mears. When Henrietta was 38 years old, she moved from Minnesota to a town called Hollywood, California. She taught Sunday school at the First Presbyterian Church, and she eventually attracted an astounding attendance of 6,500 students. When I was a kid, my Sunday school class had 10 kids. 6,500, wow. For 4 decades, she faithfully devoted herself to her passion of building a cradle-to-grave Sunday school. She also started a publishing company called Gospel Light and a successful conference center called Forest Home. Additionally, she wrote a book, What the Bible is All About, which has sold more than 3 million copies. It is impossible to estimate how many millions of people have heard the gospel through this woman and the Christian leaders she mentored and molded for God. Take the ministry of just one of her students, Bill Bright. He started Campus Crusade for Christ, which at last count had 20,000 full-time paid staff, plus 663,000 trained volunteers in 181 countries, largely due to the Jesus film, which if you haven't watched that, you got to watch it. Bill Bright's organization has reached over 3.4 billion people with the gospel, half the world's population. Now, you may not influence that many people, but you may influence one person who ends up influencing millions. Andrew, one of the 12 disciples, did that. He brought his brother Peter to Jesus, and Peter ended up bringing multitudes to God. The point is, you can make a difference. All you have to do is make yourself available to God. John 1:41. He, Andrew, first found his own brother, Simon Peter, and brought him to Jesus. And that's a challenge and our good word for the day. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading E-mini futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.